it's not possible to look at arts and culture from a policy perspective and ignore the for-profit side of creative economy, to ignore individual artists. The sort of traditional Office of Arts and Culture in a city is really focused on supporting, nurturing nonprofit arts organizations. And frankly, I think that if you do that, you are really missing the boat in terms of fully supporting the creative life and energy of a city. So for me, that was really important in terms of the change in the charge of the office. If you look at, for example, workers, people who are creative in their profession, they flow seamlessly back and forth between the nonprofit and the for-profit sector. A photographer, a musician, a writer, a graphic designer, maybe working for a nonprofit client one day or a nonprofit employer and for a for-profit entity the next day. From a consumer standpoint, people don't say, gee, hon, let's go out and have a nonprofit arts experience tonight. They say, let's hear some music. And hearing some music might involve going to World Cafe Live right down the block here, which is a for-profit venue. Or it could involve going to the Kimmel Center, which is a nonprofit venue. And the same artist could perform in either location. So again, that kind of seamless flowing back and forth between for-profits and nonprofits. And even more, increasingly, the same organization may have a nonprofit arm and a for-profit arm. So World Cafe Live, for example, is a for-profit entity. It shares space with the Penn radio station, WXPN, which is in the same building. And World Cafe Live has a nonprofit arm that's devoted to arts education. And you have many, many examples of that. And what we've also seen is that increasingly new generations of artists don't necessarily look at starting a nonprofit 501c3 as the way they look to make their art. They're much more entrepreneurial. They're starting for-profit businesses. There are a number of examples of that in the city. Jolie Lade Gallery, one of the art galleries in the city, is actually sort of a division of a company called SAW, which is the company that does all the interior design for Urban Outfitters and Anthropology. And the company actually employs mostly artists and designers who do all that creative work in the stores, and they realized, hey, we want to get even more deeply engaged in art, so we're going to start a gallery. Again, it's not a nonprofit gallery, but it's indistinguishable in terms of the programming that it does from nonprofit galleries. They just chose a different model, which is for profit. Jump Magazine, which is a new music magazine started by a guy I know well, who's a professor of journalism at Temple, devoted to the local music scene. Structured as a for-profit. He didn't even consider starting it as a nonprofit. And again, in another era, someone might have said, let me start a nonprofit magazine. So a little bit on how we define creative economy, because I thought that might be sort of helpful since I'm talking first as a sort of framing. And everyone defines it differently. It's one of those things that is sort of hard to pin down. But we basically look at all the industries that are creative at their core, that are art-centric. So all the design fields, web design, graphic design, furniture design, product design, industrial design, fashion design, interior design, we consider part of the creative economy. Architecture and landscape architecture, advertising and public relations, publishing and writing, of course. Music, and that would include music clubs, music promotion, recording studios, record companies. On the visual art side, art galleries, art dealers, art handling, exhibition design and fabrication, auction houses. On the performing arts side, you have dance studios. Most of the neighborhood dance centers where your kid might take ballet class are actually not structured as nonprofits. The dance world has evolved in a way where most neighborhood dance schools are actually structured as for-profits. But there's also scenery construction. For example, most theater companies will job out the construction of their set to an outside company. In media, of course, TV and film production, photography, broadcasting, animation, gaming, which is really a growing area in Philadelphia. And then arts-related software and app design, which is also really growing as a major industry. On the retail side, there's dance supplies. Of course, a lot of the old bricks and mortar stores are sort of dying, but they're still part of the creative economy. The few remaining record stores, bookstores, are part of that sector as well. And our challenge, really, I think, again, from the city standpoint, from sort of what keeps me up at night, is the idea of nurturing creativity and recognizing that in the world that we live in today, it really is a knowledge economy. And there are not going to be a lot of jobs out there for kids to work on a factory line. Kids have to be creative. The skills that are fostered through the arts are exactly the same skills that businesses are looking for. And one of my previous lives, I ran the National Arts and Business Council and worked specifically with business on this issue. And if you look at what are the skills that the people doing hiring in business are looking for, they match up exactly with the skills that are fostered through arts education. They're looking for creativity, innovation, they're looking for teamwork, they're looking for communication, they're looking for the ability to deal with ambiguity and the concept of no right answer, which in the world that we live in today, it's a world of gray. It's not a world of black and white. And so, from my standpoint, if we're going to build a great, healthy, thriving Philadelphia, we have to have a creative Philadelphia. We have to have a city with strong creative businesses, with strong nonprofit arts organizations, a city where artists are going to want to live and work. And if it's a city where artists want to live and work, it's a city that will attract lawyers and businesses and all different types of enterprise, because they're fueled by that creative energy.